Om. Yes. So these are the slides. The presentation on Om Mani Padme Hum. Before we begin today's session, let us briefly recollect what we have seen in the previous session. Now this mantra, Om Mani Padme Hum, it points to the indissoluble link or the union between man and universe. This is what we were studying in our last session. We saw the significance of Om. What is the significance of Om? Om is threefold. It is triune. And this threefold Om is reflected in macrocosm and microcosm. This forms the sacred tetractys. Okay? The tetrad, not only in man, but also in the universe. And the real nature of man, we saw, it is identical to the supreme divinity. Now, this implication, it can be understood only if we understand the actual presence and potency of numbers which are present in sound, words, and letters. This has to be clearly understood. And HPP says that this is because number lies at the root of the manifestation. So these are few of the things which we saw in our last session. Now we will continue from there on. So yes, here, this was the end of part 1. The implication of what we mentioned, it can be understood only if actual presence and potency of the numbers in sounds, words, and letters, it is understood clearly, because number lies at the root of manifested universe. Now we move further. Let us understand what is the significance of numbers. When she is saying, when Madam Blavatsky is saying that number lies at the root of manifested universe. HPP tells us that this whole invocation, Om Mani Padme Hum, it has 7 different meanings and it can produce 7 distinct results. Every syllable in this invocation, it has a secret potency and it produces a definite result. So there are 7 syllables in this invocation and each with its secret potency will produce a definite result. Now these 7 meanings of this invocation, the 7 results which are produced, they depend upon the intonation that is given when we chant this mantra. Then the intonation that is given to the whole formula and to every syllable, that decides the result or the effect which is produced. What this means is that while chanting, how we raise or lower the pitch of the sound, what stress we give to each syllable, and what is the rhythm of our chanting. All these things decide what is the effect that will be produced by this invocation. The numerical value of the letters, it gets increased or diminished according to the rhythm of the chanting. Numerical value is the frequency of the sound. Obviously, frequency will change depending upon the rhythm of the chant. So HPP, she has stressed, she places emphasis on the fact that number underlies form. Form meaning every structure. Number underlies form and number guides sound. So we can see the truth in this statement because number determines the frequency or the type of sound. Generally, the hearing range of man lies between 20 Hz to 20 kHz. But the scale of frequency, it extends above and below this range. Okay. So another esoteric aspect of sound is that sound is an agent, or it is the energy which holds the matter together to create structure. See this point number 2, she says number underlies form and number guides sound. So understand that sound is the agent or the energy which holds the matter together to create this form or structure. Now on the physical plane, you may have seen examples if you know about the study of cymatics. What is cymatics? It is the study of how, say for example, if we take sand particles and put them on a stretched rubber membrane, and then we apply some frequency or vibrations to that rubber membrane, then the sand particles which are lying on it, they will jump up and down due to that frequency, and they will rearrange themselves in some beautiful pattern which corresponds to the vibration which is applied. The vibration which is applied, that is the sound frequency which is applied to the rubber membrane. So the rubber membrane you can conceive of as the universe, and the sand particles on that membrane you can consider as the matter, the different grades, 7 grades of matter which makes up the universe. And this whole universe reverberates. We said universe has come into being through sound, the Shabda Brahma. So it reverberates, arranging all these matters into the structure of the universe. So that is the significance. What we see on the physical plane, it is called study of cymatics. And the same applies to every other plane, every higher plane. Okay. So that is why this sound, which has a numerical value, which is its frequency, and this number or this frequency, it lies at the root of manifestation. Theosophy teaches us that there is but one element. That is the first differentiation of the most subtle matter which gets manifested. And then everything in the universe, it arises from the harmonious and proportionate differentiation of it. Differentiation of that one element. So this differentiation is a harmonious and proportionate differentiation. And it is this proportion which gives rise to the geometry in the universe. The golden ratio, you would have seen, we see geometry in so many patterns, in so many objects, in so many events in nature. So it is the golden ratio which is found all across nature. It is same as that is given by the Fibonacci series. It is the pattern which you can see in plants, in animals, in the weather structures, meaning how the storm clouds form, or even in the star systems. It is ever present in the universe. You just need a keen eye to observe. Some of these patterns are shown on the slide in the picture to the left side. Okay, so mathematics is the language of the universe. It is the only exact science which exists in our day. Actually, even astrology is a science, but in today's and the present time, the knowledge of that astrology is forgotten. So it is not an exact science, but mathematics is the exact science which exists in our day today. HPB mentioned at one place that all things spiritual, they occur in powers of 7, meaning 7 to the power 1 or 7 to the power 2, 7 to the power 3, all things spiritual, they occur in this mathematical state. And all things phenomenal, they exist in multiples of 7. That is 7, 14, 21, like this. So you see the role of numbers in the universe. Then further, the third point, HPB has mentioned that number and numbers, they set limit to the formative hand of nature. Formation happens by combination of different elements or different tattva. These elements, the cosmic elements, they themselves are guided by numbers. We saw that they are formed by the harmonious and proportionate differentiation of the one element. So these cosmic elements or the tattva, they themselves are guided by numbers. Therefore, their combination and formation will also be dependent upon the numbers. Okay, so this is how number sets limit to the formative hand of nature. Now coming back to this mantra Om Mani Padme Hum, it is easy to see why number is associated with the sound of each syllable in this mantra. And if the rhythm and intonation of sound changes, the frequency or number changes. and it gives rise to a different meaning, producing a different result. So let us see how this mantra is related to the powers latent in man. The mystical meaning of this mantra points to the close union between man and universe. Having understood that this union is with none other than the supreme divine being, whom we call Brahma, it follows that the supreme divine powers and knowledge, which we attribute to Brahma, they must also be latent in man. Okay, because it is the union of man with the universal being. Therefore, the divine knowledge and powers of that divine being, the universal being, that should also be latent in man. HPB has mentioned that man is identical in spiritual and physical essence with both the one absolute principle and with God in nature. So with these two things, man is identical in spiritual and physical essence. That is why the invocation signifies, "Oh my God within me." This was one of the points we discussed in our last session, that this mantra means, "Oh my God within me." Now, this is the reason it means, "Oh my God within me," because of man's identity, physical and spiritual identity with the one absolute principle and with God in nature. Let us understand each of these terms, what it means. See, spiritual essence, we know it is pure consciousness. It is the same in all men. And pure consciousness is non-material. And physical essence, it is material essence. Okay, so spiritual essence is non-material. Physical essence is the material essence. It is the substance at each stage of differentiation of matter, which becomes the carrier of consciousness or the vehicle of consciousness, or the correct Sanskrit term is the upadhi of consciousness. So that is the physical essence. That doesn't necessarily mean on physical plane, but material plane, whatever level it may be. So that is spiritual and physical essence. Now, we already saw that the triune Om, which is concealed in the one absolute, it is reflected in the universe at the dawn of the universe. When universe manifests, then that eternal Om gets reflected in the universe, and again it is reflected in every man. Therefore, it follows that at the highest level, man is identical to the absolute principle, because he is nothing but a reflection of that eternal Om, which is Parbrahma. Okay, so this establishes identity of man with the one absolute principle. Now that is at the highest level. What about the lower levels or the differentiated stages? In those stages, man is identical with the God in nature. Now, what are God in nature? Again, we will not anthropomorphize God. Theosophy doesn't believe in anthropomorphic God. So what are these gods in nature? The gods in nature are the collective creative forces on every plane. Variously, in the Theosophic literature, they are called the Dhyan Chohans or the Devas or the planetary spirits. So these are hierarchies of intelligent beings, the creative beings. And man can consciously work on any plane through his body made out of the material of that plane. Man has a presence on each plane. He has 7 bodies, which is made of material of each plane. Through those bodies, he can consciously work on any plane. And this he achieves by unfolding his consciousness, by activating his latent powers. And this is what makes him identical to the creative powers on that particular plane. That is why he is identical to the God in nature. Now, before I proceed further, I would like to elaborate a little on the powers latent in man. So on the physical plane, man's divine knowledge and powers, they are not fully expressed. Why? Because he is functioning through this material body, the physical body. So his knowledge and power, they are restricted, but they are not lost. They lie latent within him. and they are ready to be awakened under right conditions. Okay? They unfold increasingly, step by step. Now, then finally, in the unconditioned state, the full potential is achieved. When that happens, in the unconditioned stage, full potential is achieved. That is when he becomes one with the universal spirit. So as man learns to work consciously in his subtler bodies, the higher laws of nature become known and they become a living fact for him. Because he's working in his subtler bodies, so he is able to work consciously on a higher plane. So the truths of those planes, the laws of those higher planes, they are a living fact for him, not mere knowledge. Here on the physical plane, it is only knowledge for us. We are knowing about it, studying about it, but we have not experienced it. So these things, to make those higher laws a living fact for oneself, this has been achieved by the ancient adepts of the Great White Brotherhood. They spent ages in meditation. They used their own body as the laboratory of nature, and then they arrived at the occult scientific laws of nature. For example, here on the physical plane, in physical science, we study that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Now, apply the same law on a universal scale. It is the law of cause and effect, which is the law of karma. Whatever we study in physical science, like the forces of heat, light, electricity, magnetism, it enables us to harness these energies for technological use. Okay. So knowledge about the forces on higher planes and with the correct training, it will enable us to harness those energies for beneficent use. Because when we study physical forces, we can make use of them for our technology. Same way, we study the higher forces on higher planes and we are trained to use them. We can harness them for beneficent use of the entire humanity or for evolution. Now, these forces on the higher plane, inherently no force is evil, no force or energy or technology is good or bad. It is the selfishness of man which results in misuse of the force. If he has personal selfishness, or if there is social selfishness, or even at national level, when nations, they are selfish, this is what results in misuse of the force. It is so evident even in the use of our present day technology and science. So this is the reason for emphasis in theosophy. The highest emphasis is laid on mental purity, on altruism. And this is the reason that the closely guarded secrecy is maintained about occult knowledge by the Mahatmas to prevent any misuse, because mankind is not free of his selfishness. Now, the purity in our lower nature and altruism, that is the surest way to prevent any misuse of those knowledge and power which are latent in man. If you get rid of this self-centeredness, selfishness, that is the root cause of all misery, then there will be no danger in using these knowledge and power which are latent in man. And we have seen throughout these more than 150 years now, how many years since the Theosophical Society was formed, we know that the Mahatmas, they work for the spiritual progress of the whole humanity. They utilize their spiritual forces of will, wisdom, and love. These are real occult powers. They are present in everyone. These are the powers of our Ichha Shakti, Gyan Shakti, and Kriya Shakti. And all these forces are latent in all men. But they are active powers in adepts who are perfected men. So if we become perfected men, these powers become active. These powers, they become active as man will increasingly master his lower nature. and he will rise to higher levels of his existence. So how, by using these occult powers, how is work accomplished? A very quick glance at this, and then we will move forward to the next slide. So we know that to perform any work on the physical plane, how do we perform any work? We have to expend some power, right? We have to exert some physical force to do some work, whether it is mechanical power or electrical power, or simply it is muscle power. We use our hand to lift a book or a glass and move it from one place to the other. But it requires expending some force. This is on the physical plane. Now think about it on the mental plane. How is work accomplished there? By the mental power. How is this mental power generated? It is by the mental force, which comes about by focused, intense thinking for an extended duration. Focused and intense thinking for an extended duration will generate a mental force. So no muscle strength is needed, no physical force is needed. The thought form that is generated, it is endowed with a mental force, enabling it to accomplish its appointed purpose. This power of thought, it is very well elaborated in the theosophical literature. There are many books about it. Okay, so we're not entering into the detail, but you can see, you can correlate that how the higher forces are used to accomplish work. There are planes higher than the mental, where spiritual forces like the willpower is used. God wills and it happens, let thy will be done. So it is an actual force. Whatever work is done on these higher planes, it will always have its corresponding output on all the subsequent lower planes. Okay, so if an adept is able to work at a mental plane or at the buddhic plane, then whatever work is accomplished, it will have its result on all planes. So we will also see it on the physical plane. This is how we are affected when the Mahatmas perform or go about their work. So HPP has mentioned that all the results, all these forces like light, electricity, magnetism, which we see on physical plane, they are nothing but the occult forces operating on higher plane. On the higher plane, it is the noumena, and what you see on physical plane, it is the phenomena. Okay? So therefore, it is possible to achieve tangible results even on physical plane if man can effectively harness the forces on higher plane. And we understand now very clearly that by purifying our lower nature and working altruistically, that will lead to spiritual progress and unfoldment of consciousness and manifestation of the latent occult powers in man. Okay? Then when this happens, man becomes a creative force in nature. So he is equivalent to God in nature. This is called as the "Oh my God within me." The God within me is nothing but the inner man. Okay? Then man can create all that which is good and helpful in the progress, in the evolution of all life. He can create on all planes on which he can consciously exist. Right? We are existing on all 7 planes, but we are conscious only on the physical plane. If he can consciously exist and work, say on the mental plane or on the buddhic plane, then he can create or work on those planes. Man himself, in his supreme essence, he is the infinite reservoir of all spiritual forces. So he can harness those forces. Now, with the right understanding of this invocation, Om Mani Padme Hum, and its correct application in 7 ways, one can investigate all these powers. One can call them forth from latency into active potency. And this is the significance of the invocation, making it one of the most powerful mantra given to man. This is the importance of the mantra. Man becomes a God in nature. So with understanding correctly what are the powers latent in man, also the third object of Theosophical Society corresponds to this, the latent powers in man and in nature. Now we understand what they are and how they can be brought into being. Now we move to the 7 states of consciousness. The 7 states of consciousness in man, it corresponds to the 7 planes. This we all know, solar planes and cosmic planes. And man can consciously exist and work on any plane through the corresponding upadhi, meaning through the corresponding body which is made out of the matter of that plane. Okay, because that upadhi is the carrier of his consciousness. This invocation, Om Mani Padme Hum, it can render the union between man and universe in 7 different ways. This is what we are told. Which means that the 7 states of man's consciousness, they can come en rapport, or they can come in tune, in harmony with the corresponding cosmic planes. Okay, the 7 states of man's consciousness. Consciousness is also septenary. So man's consciousness can come in tune with the corresponding cosmic planes. Currently, we exist we have our existence in the solar planes, the 7 solar planes, and we are existing on the physical plane, the physical solar plane. But using this mantra, the invocation Om Mani Padme Hum, we can attune our consciousness, the 7 states of consciousness, to the 7 cosmic planes. So this is the power and the significance of this mantra. It remains with man to attune the 3 higher states in himself to the 3 higher planes in cosmos, says HPD. But before he can attempt to attune, he must awaken the 3 seeds to life and activity. Now, the first point, the meaning of to attune the 3 higher states in himself to the 3 higher planes in cosmos, it is plain enough. It means that the states pertaining to the 3 higher principles, Atma, Buddhi, Manas. So man can attune or merge his consciousness in Brahma consciousness or in universal consciousness. And attaining this state of merging in Brahma consciousness, the higher 3, it solely rests on man's own effort. Each person, what effort he puts in, he can attain it. But before he can do this, he must awaken the 3 seeds to life and activity. The 3 seeds are again Atma, Buddhi, Manas, the 3 higher principles. So they have to first be awakened to life and activity. If they are sleeping, how can you attune them to the cosmic higher 3 principles? First, awaken our own 3 higher principles to become active to life and activity, and then attune them to the cosmic principles. So at the present stage of evolution, we see that man's life and activity, it is largely guided by Manas, obviously, but a Manas which is influenced by Kam or by desire, often which are self-centered desire. Okay, so his consciousness is identified with his personality, with the lower quaternary, with himself. Now, living from the lower quaternary, he cannot hope to attune his higher triad to the higher 3 planes of the cosmos, because he lives only for himself. So there is a separateness. He considers himself separate. So to attune with the cosmos, he must first start living from his upper triad rather than living from the personality, from the lower quaternary. He must start living from his upper triad. This means that his life and activity, it must become the outcome solely of Atma, Buddhi, Manas, the 3 higher seeds. The wholly purified essence of his Manas, it should be fully attuned to Buddhi, that is the spiritual soul. And what this entails, it means there should be complete extinction of all animal desires. There should be complete freedom from Kam or Klesh. The highest degree of perfection and holiness must be achieved during life. Thus, when man becomes liberated, when he is free from everything that is connected with matter of the physical world, then he can try, then he can attempt to attune with the universal being. Okay, so first, freedom from the lower quaternary. First, purity. First, making your life an outcome of Atma Buddhi Manas. And only then you can try and attune this Atma Buddhi Manas to the universal being. So in plain words, what this means, before man attempts to gain universal consciousness, he must attain self-realization. Because when you stop living from lower quaternary and start living from Atma Buddhi Manas, that is self-realization. That is Nirvana. That is Jivan Mukti. And only after Nirvana comes Paranirvana. Paranirvana is attuning with the universal consciousness. So this mystic invocation, Om Mani Padme Hum, it may become a means for such an attempt. It is a tool. Chanting in particular tones, evoking particular sounds that correspond to certain colors, which influence certain principles of man, we can attune our three higher principles to the three higher principles of the universe. That means from Nirvana, we can move to Paranirvana. But few of us, very few of us, indeed, even superficially comprehend this Atma Vidya. What we are talking about is Atma Vidya, and HPB says that very few of us, indeed, even superficially comprehend. We don't even have it's not even a scratch on the surface, no idea of this Atma Vidya. But the highest adepts, they have accomplished it. The lower four cosmic planes, they are cognizable by the highest adepts. Pythagoras was an initiate, and he was a great scientist. Plato and Euclid, they were also initiates. Euclid's geometry is taught in schools even today, and he learned it from the mysteries. If you look closer here at home, the great saints of Indian history and culture, whom we have studied about, and even the more contemporary saints or Mahatmas like Raman Maharishi, Ramakrishna Paramhans, Paramhans Yoganand, they are all testimony to the fact that man can do what man has done, right? Which means you can live a life from your three higher principles, and you can attune your three higher principles to the three higher cosmic principles. So ultimately, it comes down to the states of consciousness of man. So let us explore the correspondence between the 7 states of consciousness and the 7 planes. This diagram, some of you must have seen, it is from the Secret Doctrine, and it shows man, that is the microcosm, the smallest circle which you are seeing. It is within the solar logos, that is the larger circle, the macrocosm. And this solar logos, it is within the cosmic logos, which is the universal all. Now, only the 4 lower cosmic planes have been shown. The 4th cosmic plane, you can see at the top of the slide, it is Fohat, or it is cosmic calm manas. Okay, this okay. The 3rd cosmic plane, it is Pran, okay, the vital life. The 2nd cosmic plane is the astral plane, and the 1st cosmic plane is called the Prakritic plane. It is the body of the cosmos. And our solar system, it manifests in the Prakritic plane. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that all 7 planes of the solar system, they are basically the 7 divisions of the Prakritic plane. Prakritic planes in some places is also called terrestrial plane. As we know, each plane has 7 subdivisions. So Prakritic plane also has 7 subdivisions, which form the 7 planes of our solar system. And man's physical existence is on the first Prakritic plane. That is the physical plane of the solar system. Now, keep in mind that all cosmic planes, they occupy the same space. They are interpenetrating. They are not layered. This lowest Prakritic plane, it is shown bigger in the diagram just so that we can accommodate that solar logos or the solar system in that. Okay, but otherwise all planes, they occupy the same space or the same region. Now these three figures, we'll see and study them separately. So they are given here. The figure 1, it is the cosmic planes. Figure 2 is the solar planes. And figure 3 is the levels of human consciousness pertaining to each of these planes. Now, let us focus on figure 1, the cosmic planes. It is showing the cosmic consciousness, the septenary cosmic consciousness. Okay, in the oval which you see, we are referring to figure 1. In that oval, on the left side are the cosmic principles, and on the right side are the human principles, just to show the correspondence. Okay. Corresponding to them are the 7 states of consciousness. So these 7 cosmic principles, we'll go from the bottom to the top. So first cosmic principle, it is the Prakritic plane. In the previous slide, we saw that the solar system manifests in this Prakritic plane, which is corresponding to the body of the cosmos and also to the body of man, when you correspond it to man. The second cosmic plane, it is the cosmic astral plane. The astral and the Prakritic plane, they reciprocally affect each other. Just like in man, the astral and physical, they reciprocally affect each other. So cosmic astral corresponds to the Linga Sharir of man. Prakritic corresponds to the Sthula Sharir or the physical body of man. So Linga Sharir, Sthula Sharir, correspondingly you have the cosmic, Linga Sharir and Sthula Sharir, which is Prakritic plane and astral plane of the cosmos. Then the third cosmic principle, it is Pran or Jeev. It is actually the all-pervading one life of the cosmic entity. Who's the cosmic entity? The universal self, Brahma. So it is the one life pertaining to Brahma. Our consciousness, that is human consciousness, it is said to be the cosmic seed of Parbrahma. That means cosmic seed of super cosmic omniscience. Parbrahma is super cosmic and he is omniscient. So human consciousness is the cosmic seed. When we say seed, what does it imply? For example, consider a mango seed. It will grow into a mango tree. So if human consciousness is the cosmic seed, it means it will grow into, it has the potential to bud into cosmic consciousness, the universal or divine consciousness. And this is the true meaning of the invocation, the union between man and universe. Om Mani Padme. So you see, everywhere in theosophic literature, these correspondences which are shown, they are all contained in that one shlok, one mantra, Om Mani Padme. Then coming to the fourth cosmic plane, that is Fohat. Fohat is energy, or what we call as Shakti in the Indian scriptures. Shakti is that which gets all the work done in cosmos. And that is also septenary. Fohat is septenary. If you compare it with the Vedantic terms used by T. Subbarao. T. Subbarao mentioned the triune aspects as Parbrahma, Mool Prakriti, and Daivi Prakriti. So Parbrahma is unknowable, Mool Prakriti is the material aspect or the material cause which manifests the universe, and Daivi Prakriti is the force or the energy which gets the work done. So we can correspond this Daivi Prakriti on the fourth plane to Fohat. So as it descends to lower planes, it is called, Fohat is a Buddhist term, I think. Then coming to the fifth plane, Mahat, the fifth cosmic plane, that is Mahat, which corresponds to Manas in human beings, the fifth principle. And in the cosmos, this Mahat, it is the highest entity, the most divine entity. There is no more diviner entity than this Mahat. This Mahat is equivalent, it is, in other words, it is named as or called as universal mind. It is the divine mind. And in human beings, it corresponds to Manas. Now, one very interesting thing about the human Manas, it is said that the Mansik entity of man, it will not be destroyed even at the end of the Mahamanvantar. Mahamanvantar means when the universe, the entire universe goes into pralay along with all the solar systems. So even at that time, when the universe goes into pralay, the Mansik entity of man will not be destroyed. It will be absorbed into Par-Brahma, the latency of Par-Brahma. And when the next cycle of universe begins, so in the next universal or Mahamanvantar, it will re-emerge and continue its journey from where it had been absorbed into latency. Okay. It means whatever progress we make, it is never destroyed, even during Pralay or Mahapralay. And we continue our journey. So that is our real nature. Universal consciousness, we see in this figure 1, it is the fifth principle, which is Mahat. Now coming to the sixth cosmic principle, it is Alay. Alay is also called Mahabuddhi. What does Alay mean? Many people don't understand the term Alay. In Sanskrit, Alay means the place or the abode, the home of something. We say Devalay. Devalay means temple. Devalay means the home of the god. God is living in that temple. That is why it is called Devalay. All other terms, if you see, like Pustakalay, the home of the books, Vidyalay, home of where knowledge is given, Vidyalay. So Alay generally means the abode or the home of something. So why Buddhi is called Alay? Buddhi is called as Alay because it is the home of the spirit. Pure spirit is abstract. It cannot manifest without a substance. It requires a substance to manifest. And the first differentiation of matter, the first substance that is created, that becomes the home or the abode for that abstract spirit to act through, to manifest. That is why this Buddhic matter, it is the home of the spirit, that therefore it is called Alay. Okay, so in different places you will find Alay is used for other principles also. So please don't get confused. Here Alay is standing for Mahabuddhi, the cosmic Buddhi. And then the seventh cosmic principle, it is the cosmic auric envelope. It is the Atmic elements of the manifested cosmos. What is that? We have seen in our first session. It is the envelope or the region which defines Hiranyagarbha. Hiranyagarbha, it is the sum total of karma of the manifesting universe. So not only individual beings like humans have their karma, but also the manifested universal being has karma associated with it. And his karma is equal to the sum total of all karma in the manifesting universe. Why is universe also associated with karma? Because when the universe will go into Mahapralay, it will be absorbed in Par-Brahma. And then after the Mahapralay is over and again the Mahamanvantar begins, then the same universe will manifest again and continue evolving from the point it left. So all the previous karma, they will have their effects and evolution will continue from there. So that is why this cycle of karma, it is the law of karma is universal. It applies to macrocosm and microcosm and the entire cosmos. Okay, so this was the seventh cosmic principle, which is Hiranyagarbha. Now the figure 2, it represents the solar system, all types of solar systems. It is the lowest, the solar system, they manifest on the lowest cosmic plane or the Prakritic plane. We saw this in the previous slide, won't go into details. Figure 3 shows the human principles and the planes of consciousness, okay, corresponding to the planes. So the first one, again, beginning from the lowest, the first one is objective consciousness, which pertains to our 5 physical senses. Whatever we sense by our physical senses, that consciousness. So it is objective consciousness. The second plane, which is astral, it corresponds to astral consciousness. Okay. Now, this astral consciousness, they are the astral senses. For example, clairvoyant sense, reading with the eyes shut. Or some people have the ability to read with their fingertips. They can just touch something, eyes are closed, and they can read. There was a girl, there was an incident I read, that girl, she could, even if her eyes, a bandage was put on her eyes, she was able to read. And when she was asked that how you are able to read, she pointed to her stomach. She could read from the pit of her stomach. And that is a real developed sense, or astral sense. HPB also mentions that. So this astral sense or astral consciousness, it is greatly developed in the people who are deaf and dumb. Okay. Now coming to the third, which is calm pranic consciousness. This calm pranic consciousness, it is existence of consciousness in every cell of our body. Not only in our body, but in every atom, in every mineral. The desire to be alive. That is the calm pranic consciousness. Desire and that one life, to live. So calm pranic consciousness, it is the desire to be alive. The fourth, that is calm mansik consciousness, pertaining to the lower manas. This is the instinctual consciousness. In man, it is rational instinct. Lower manas is rational, logically thinks, and it is instinctual. It is the psychic consciousness. Okay. And then the fifth one, the fifth is our mansik consciousness of the higher ego. It is from this place, the manas of man, it extends, it stretches upwards to Mahat. You see in figure 1, the fifth cosmic principle is Mahat. And here in figure 3, the fifth one, which is our higher ego, the manas, it stretches and touches Mahat. Human manas is nothing, it is a ray of Mahat. I wanted to show you this. Yes, here. So manas is actually a ray of Mahat. Mahat, we saw it is the fifth cosmic principle. It is called Brahma, or the third cosmic logos. And the 7 Kumar, which we know, Sanak, Sanandan, Sanatan, Sanat Kumar, and then 3 more, they are called the sons of Brahma. Why? Because they are the mind-born sons. They have been brought into being just by thinking, by the cosmic mind. Okay, so they are the mind-born sons, and these Kumars, they have incarnated in human personalities. If we study the rounds and races, then in the middle of the third race, these Kumars, they incarnate in human personalities and they endow them with mind. Okay, so they are also called as our solar Pitris. They are the Agnishvats. Okay, and that is how human mind is connected to the cosmic mind. Now going back quickly to the 6th principle, that is Buddhic consciousness of man. The plane of Buddhic and auric envelope, that is Atma. So these 5th and 6th principles, they cover the planes from psychic to spiritual to divine. Okay, 5th is Manas. So Manas, when it goes lower, it touches calm. So from psychic, it comes to divine, which is the Manas, and it goes to spiritual, that is Buddhic, and it touches the auric envelope. So from psychic to spiritual to divine, all these planes are touched by our Manas. That is why Manas is the pivot of the human being. The 7th principle is the auric envelope. It is the magnetic envelope which defines the human being. Okay? Just as in the cosmos, it is the Hiranyagarbha. which defines the universal being. So in man, it is the magnetic envelope which defines the human being, and it takes up the light of the Atma. Okay, this is again a actual force, actual occult force. Many times you can see around holy people, it overshadows the coronal. Around their head, you can see a light which is circling. So that is the auric envelope and the light circling around their head. Now, this auric envelope in every man, it is a combination of life and will principles, the life force and the will force. So life and will, they are actually one. They are one and the same force in cosmos. You would have seen many examples in human beings. If a person is unwell, if he is sick, and if that patient, he forgoes his will to live, he has no will to live, then no medicine can save him because he has lost the will. So his life force is lost. And why this happens? Because life and will force, they are one and the same. So by the same law, if you will something, if you put that will energy or will force, which is within you, if you will something, then whatever you will, it must come to pass. It must happen. But for that, you should be able to command the spiritual will. It is not desire. Okay? You must be able to command the spiritual will, and whatever you will, it will come to pass. Life and will are the powers of the money in the Padma. When we say Om Mani Padme Hum, we are that money, the spiritual self in us. And our auric envelope, it is 7-layered, just like the cosmic space, just like our physical skin, the epidermis, it is 7-layered. So everything is septenary, even our aura. Depending on our mental and physical purity or impurity, this aura, it serves as the gateways to other planes or worlds, because this aura is defining our self, our individual being, and it allows us to communicate with other worlds. Or it can shut us out altogether, because it depends on our own purity and impurity. So we can be shut from the other worlds, or we can be open to them. So this is actually a hint to the chakras or the energy vortices which are there in our subtle bodies. And through these energy vortices, we are in contact with the energies of the higher planes. So the 3 higher principles of man, Atma, Buddhi, Manas, they correspond to and they radiate from the 3 higher cosmic principles. This is how we are connected to the cosmos. Okay. In figure 1, you can see the 3 higher cosmic principles, Mahat, Alay, and the auric envelope of cosmos. And similarly, in man, it is the Manas, Buddhi, and the auric envelope of man. This is how we are connected through these 3 principles. It is such a wonderful thing to think that we are so much more than our limited self that we see. And this is how we can just conceive how the microcosms within the macrocosms and everything within Parabrahma. Now, there is one more slide which I would like to complete today, and then we can probably close the session for today. This is about the Lok and the Tal. So very closely related with our states of consciousness and with the 7 solar planes is the concept of Lok and Tal. And it is exoterically mentioned in several of the scriptures also. Lok and Tal, they are the spiritual and material polarities of a plane. 7 planes are there. So 7 spiritual polarities and 7 material polarities. Now, it is so one plane will have the spiritual polarity and the material polarity. So by reflection, they become 14. And in the Hindu scriptures, we speak of 14 lok. They are nothing but the Lok and Tal, which are 7 and 7. So these are what we call as subjective and objective, or pure and impure, Lok is pure and Tal is impure, or one is positive, the other is negative. So these are nothing, they are pairs of opposite. And together they are forming the entire universe. So a quick look at what is given about these Lok and Tal and how it corresponds to our states of consciousness. These 7 Lok, they are the subjective states. They are the states of consciousness, and they can be fully experienced by the inner man. From Bhulok to Satyalok. Bhu, Bhuvar, Swar, Mahar, Janah, Tapah, and Satya. Okay, they are the spiritual states or the subjective states. And the 7 Tal, they are the objective states. They represent the brain intellect states, states of our intellect pertaining to the brain. So that is the Tal. Okay, though it may not be apparent to us, but that is what it is actually, because the intelligence, it comes to the physical level. Okay, now the lower one goes into the Tal. The more intellectual he will become, but less spiritual. So he may be a morally good man, but he will not be spiritual. He may not be spiritual. Okay, because his intellect will remain, or it can remain, closely allied with desire or calm. So HPV says that Brahmins and Buddhists, they regard the Tal as hell, but this word should be taken only figuratively. We are in hell whenever we suffer, whenever we are in misery. That is hell for us. Okay. Now, each and all of these Tal, they correspond to the cosmic hierarchies of beings, the intelligent beings who form the hierarchies of cosmos. That corresponds to the Tal. Why? Because the hierarchies, they are made out of the material or the substance of that plane. Okay, so Tal corresponds to the material polarity. So it is corresponding to the Dhyani Chohanic hierarchies. And they also correspond to the human states of consciousness. Every one of us has to pass through the lower lok. The lower lok are Bhulok, Bhuvarlok, Swarlok. Okay, and but they not necessary that they have to pass through the corresponding Tal. So if we are passing through Bhu, Bhuva, Swa, then it is not necessary we have to go through Patal and Mahatal and Rasatal. Okay, when we speak in terms of states of consciousness. So HPB has taken the Vedantic classification of Tal, which pertains to substantiality or the materiality, and correspondence is taken to the Lok. So that is the spiritual correspondence of the consciousness in regards to spiritual evolution of man. And she says that as the student advances, he should endeavor to bring all things down to the state of consciousness. Because ultimately, we experience the universe through the different stages of our consciousness. And it is only through the consciousness that we either rise to higher, to the universal, removing all this illusion of plurality or separateness, or we can sink to the lowest, where we perceive everything as separate. So therefore, all that is required is to bring everything down to states of consciousness. So with this, I will end today's session. And we can take some time for discussion. If we have any question and answers or any other point to discuss, we can speak about it now.
It is told that consciousness is sleeping at the mineral level. How that consciousness is distributed in a septenary way. It is lingering in at a plant stage. So how that consciousness is existing without any action at a lower level? Is it there?
Yeah, so you are speaking about the consciousness in mineral level, right?
Yeah.
To the human being, it appears as if the mineral or the stone, it is not alive, it is not conscious. Consciousness is dormant, right? But in every particle, in every atom, the consciousness, I think it is the calm mansic consciousness, the desire to live, the will to live, it is still present in that particle, even though it may not be evident to us. And this consciousness, it is also septenary, even though it is in the mineral or in a stone, it is still septenary, because in the subsequent Manvantar, not even Manvantar, perhaps Mahamanvantar. So in the subsequent Manvantar, this consciousness will also evolve. Every particle in the universe has the potentiality of reaching the divine, attaining that stage. So we have already evolved and come to the human consciousness, and we are a compound. We have so many cells in our body. Each cell has that calm mansic consciousness, which is there in the mineral, the desire to live. Okay, so it is the same, which is in our cell and which is in the mineral. But now our cells are organized to form the human being, and this human being has self-consciousness. We know that we are divine and we can reach that divinity. The mineral has not evolved to that level, but in subsequent manvantars and mahamanvantars, it too will evolve to that level. So consciousness in that also is septenary. This is what I have understood from whatever is given
Yeah, I
by
think
HPB.
it is actually in inactive stage.
Hmm.
By evolution, I think it will get evolved to the conscious level. That
Yes.
is what is we call purification. I think so.
Purification in a way, yes. But what will you consider purification for mineral? From mineral, the life wave will move on to plant. From plant, it will move on to animal. And from animal, it will move on to human form. That is the normal course of evolution we have studied. And yes, then after coming to the level of man, then purification is required, because selfishness begins from that level of man.
Yes. Binita asked two questions. One is what is the difference between divine and spiritual? Second question you can see in chat box. The consciousness is always universal. It is mine or yours. What is your comment on it? There is no, according to her, there is no difference between your consciousness, my consciousness. Just explain something on these two questions.
Okay, these are questions of very high level. I don't know how much justice I can do by answering them, but I will give you my point of view, and other people may also share their views so that we have more ideas on this. So I'll take the first question, that what is the difference between divine and spiritual? Spiritual is a term which tells you how close you are to unity.
Your voice is not audible.
The one life, or the one.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Yes, that is what I think is.
This divine is Parabrahman. When it is manifested at the macro level, it is assumes a spiritual level. And again, when it is reflected, the same thing.
Vibhaji, you can give answer.
Sir, you are not audible. Are you still speaking?
Is it not audible?
It was not audible to me, maybe.
Okay.
And maybe it is my internet issue.
Divinity is Parabrahman state. Is it audible?
No, you have some technical problem, not audible.
Okay, okay.
Sometimes the voice breaking. You can. Yes, Vibhaji, you can complete.
So, what I understand, like when we speak about septenary man, then higher we go in our 7 principles, those principles, they are considered spiritual. In fact, only the higher three principles, Manas, Buddhi, and Atma, that is spiritual. So we are moving from separateness or plurality towards unity or oneness. That is the meaning of spiritual. The lower we are in our consciousness, where we feel separateness, so that is materiality or physicality, and the higher we move in our septenary principles, we move towards spirituality or oneness. Now, divinity is a term which is applied to the universal consciousness, or to Brahma, or to Parabrahma. That is how I would put it. Perhaps Pradeep ji or somebody, you can also share your views on this divinity and spirituality.
She has another question. Another question is difference between a consciousness of your consciousness and her consciousness.
Okay. My second question is that consciousness is always universal. It is not mine or yours. What is your comment? Exactly, that is true. Consciousness is pure spirit. So consciousness is Atma, and Atma is one, undivided. It cannot be my Atma or your Atma. But still, my consciousness is different from your consciousness. Like when I'm currently speaking to you, it is me who's speaking, not you. Why? Because I'm speaking through my body. So consciousness, when it is confined to one body, it becomes limited. Rather, it is expressed in a limited way. It is universal, but it is being expressed in a limited way. Suppose if instead of talking through this physical body of mine, I can raise my consciousness to my astral level, mental, buddhic, atmic level, then my consciousness has actually entered your consciousness or your material being. When this happens, I can at one stroke feel all your thoughts and emotions. I can know everything about you. That is the level of oneness which actually occurs in a state where a person has achieved raising or unfolding of his consciousness from a limited body to a higher body. That oneness will be experienced. But as long as we are confined to just our physical body, it will still be experienced separately.
Yes, Shitalji is, yes, she wants to ask something.
Yes, Shitalji.
Yes, I want to ask about the lokas and tal.
Loka and tal, yes.
Tal. So actually that patal, sutal, whatever talas are there, that is we say it goes down, down, down means coarse qualities. And here in that chart you have shown that Satyalok corresponds to the Atal or something.
Yeah, I'm just trying to open the slide.
Last slide. It is the last slide.
Yes. That is slide number 20, I think. 1 minute. Are you able to see my slide?
No.
I think there is some issue. I'm not able to share it. Okay, you tell me your question.
Okay. So when that Atal is supposed to be the lowest down or coarse quality, then how it corresponds to the Satyaloka?
No. Atal is not the lowest one. Patal is the lowest one. Patal corresponds to Bhulok.
Okay. Oh, yes.
See, okay, I did not actually go into the details of the Tal and the Lok. What it is, basically, Patal corresponds to Bhulok. Bhulok is our physical earth. Okay.
Yes.
And Patal is its antipode. Exoterically, it is said that Patal is antipode, meaning polar, opposite of where India is. So America, that is considered the polar opposite. But anyway, so Patal is the place where it is considered as a place of extreme selfishness, self-preservation, gratification of senses only. The man is only concerned about gratifying his senses. He's extremely selfish. Okay, and self-preservation, that I want to live at all costs. So this is the kind of description which is given of Patal. So that is still on earth only. You will find such people, they may be existing on earth itself. But when you speak of Bhulok, so that is the spiritual state. Again, it is men only who are living on physical earth, but they are good men. They think rationally. They also help others. So they are virtuous or altruistic also. Okay. So Bhulok and Patal, both. What HPB calls it as Myalba, Myalba, Myalba.
Okay.
That is, she calls this as Patal. And she says both exist here only. And since it is on earth, it corresponds to our smell, the sense of smell. And now coming to the first one, which is Atal.
Atal.
Atal. Atal means what? Atal means no place. And Tal.
Oh,
Okay?
yes.
Is the negation of na. What is Tal? We said Tal, it is the material polarity of the plane. Now, Satyalok means the highest lok, or the corresponding to our Atmic level, the spiritual level. So this is the first differentiation from the absolute. First differentiation is the most subtle substance. It is so subtle that it is as good as not there. That is why it is called Atal. It is not Atal. So these are the descriptions which are given to each lok, that is the spiritual state, and to each tal. But I didn't go into the details because we don't have so much time. But for each lok and tal, the entire description is given by HPP, what it means in terms of materiality and spiritual state of consciousness.
Yes, ma'am. And regarding the first question, somebody asked about the mineral states.
Mineral states.
So I think there are stages in minerals also. We find good quality of soil, bad quality of soil, then good quality of rocks, bad quality of rocks, then good quality of gems, stones and gems. So it is growing now. So there are there are differences in that planes also, na? Means in
Yes,
minerals,
yes.
there is difference.
Definitely. The highest evolved minerals are considered the crystals.
Crystals, gems, yes. So we can specify that.
Yes, that is right. What you're saying is right. The 7 states, there will also be 7 groups. Within each kingdom, there are 7 groups. Just like in the human kingdom, there are 7 root races. Each race gets more and more evolved. So same way in the mineral kingdom also, there will be 7 classes of mineral. Each will be a higher evolution of that mineral.
Yes.
Mineral consciousness, rather.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sheetalji. Any other question? In our next session, we will be focusing on the aspect of light and sound and how it pertains to this invocation Om Mani Padme Hum. And that would be the concluding part of this series. So,
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. So with this, we'll bring our session to a close today.
Yes.
Thank you, Vibhaji. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Shindeji, namaste.
And here, one question which was asked.
Yes.
Spirituality and divinity.
Yes, sir.
A very basic question. And we may think of Alaya as the divinity.
Alaya.
That envelope. That envelope is the divinity. And below it, all spirituality.
Correct. Yes.
We can think of like that.
Thank you, sir. Okay.
Thank you.
Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya. Om Sarvesham Swastirabhavatu Sarvesham Shantirabhavatu Sarvesham Purnam Bhavatu Sarvesham Mangalam Bhavatu Lokah Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina Sarve Santu Niramaya Sarve Bhadrani Pashyantu Ma Kaschit Dukha Bhag Bhavet. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste and thank you all for joining.